and welcome to this DPI program. With me today is Minister of Public Telecommunications, the Honorable Catherine Hughes, and we're going to be chatting a little bit and reflecting on the ministry's work so far for over the last 6 months. Minister Hughes, welcome to this program and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Minister Hughes, in May of this year, the APNU AFC government would have celebrated 2 years in power. We'd have seen a number of achievements over those last 2 years. Your thoughts?
I think you're absolutely right, Gabby. It's been a somewhat challenging time in some respects, but I think that we have a lot of things that we can talk about, and I look forward to talking about the things in my sector. You asked me to reflect on the last 2 years. For me, it has felt like a 100-meter dash. And, the challenge I think that this administration has had is that we have come in and with a vision, with policies, and when we went into a lot of the ministries, and I could speak for my own ministries, a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the policies, a lot of the things that I expected would have been in place, I did not find. So the job has been a lot more difficult. We've had challenges, for example, in sugar that really should have been tackled 15 years ago, 10 years ago that was not. And so, of course, today we're having to deal with that. So, putting all of that aside, I think we're up for the challenge. I think we have a team of well-qualified persons of integrity. And despite the propaganda that is constantly hurled at us, I think we have done a fairly good job.
And over those 2 years, you would have acted in or hold a portfolio in 2 ministries. First, that's the Minister of Tourism, and then now you're in the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. So within those 2 ministries, how has those 2 years so far impacted your life personally?
Personally, I have found the Ministry of Public Telecommunications a very exciting area. There are parts of the sector that I did not have in-depth knowledge on, but I have been learning extremely fast, and I have really found it an exciting area of work. Why it excites me is because the sector allows you to make a difference in people's lives immediately. And therefore, a couple of weeks ago, I went to an ICT hub we created in Crabwood Creek. And I remember when it was just a room, and we gave them the computers. And, 4 months later, I go to see the hub. And the sentiment expressed is, Minister, we need more computers. And this is simply by giving free internet access to a community. So that if you didn't have internet access at home or in school, you have a place, regardless of where you are as a citizen, that you can come and do your homework. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to set up your Facebook page and promote yourself, market yourself to a global market, the possibilities are there. If you're somebody that signed up for an online course, at whatever age you may be, and you're doing some online learning, we have given you those possibilities. So I've said a couple of times that the ICT and the Ministry of Public Telecommunications will transform Guyana, and I firmly believe that.
And on that same note, that has been part of your vision for this ministry, more so linking the hinterland with the coastline in terms of internet, and also transforming Guyana to make sure that we catch up with the rest of the world in ICT. So on that same note, 2017 has been a fantastic year thus far. I'm sure that you will agree with that. We have seen a number of more ICT hubs being established. We've been attending conferences to learn more of how the other world is developing and so on. So looking back on some of the achievements of this year.
Okay, so I'm happy to say this is our report card. And I hope everybody, just based on what I'm going to tell you, we score an A. But we have now connected 95 secondary schools to the e-government network. And sometimes I think people misunderstand how important that is. The reality is that in Guyana, quite a few schools from a previous program had a computer lab. What happened in a lot of areas is that if the school had a very vibrant alumni association, most alumni associations paid for the internet access to the school.
Okay.
Because generally the Ministry of Education has not traditionally been able to pay for internet access to, for example, the administration blocks.
Okay.
And in some remote areas, not to the computer labs. So connecting, using our e-government network, we have been able to connect 95 schools. So in each school, in each high school, we now know that the teacher's room, the admin block, and also the computer labs have internet access. For teachers, it's important because it helps with their preparation of lesson plans, with research, and even for students, research they have to do for their SBAs or for a particular class, to see demonstrations on a particular point that they might be learning, that might be on YouTube. So the access to the internet, we see improving access as to the internet as giving power to individuals to enhance themselves and to develop themselves. So it was 95 secondary schools. We've actually connected 37 other institutions, and by other institutions we mean the regional educational offices, we mean the Tech Vox schools, we mean, for example, the School of Agriculture, the Teacher Training School. We also now, and we did some in 2016, some more in 2017, we've now connected 22 government agencies in 2016 and an additional 31 in 2017. So more government agencies have secure internet access, and with that we are creating some hotspots at some of those ministries or government services. We've created now 49 ICT hubs, and we've given out 8,944 laptops. Let me say a little more on each of those. The connecting of the government in ministries is very, very important. Our vision is that we want, as a government, to be able to provide more services to citizens online. So that means in services and ministries and areas where previously you'd have to go and you'd have to line up for an hour or 2 hours, or if it's the passport office at a bad time, maybe up to 3 hours, people traveling from Berbice and out of town. We're changing all of that. We want to make sure that eventually you can sit at home and apply for 99% of your passport or your business registration. A couple of weeks ago, we actually had a consultation with the private sector, with the Guyanese involved in the ICT area, and also with our public ministries. And we were looking there, we were sharing some research and some information that I have been looking at in the area of creating a digital government and an even stronger e-government.
Okay.
And of course you will know that we had the folks from the e-government academy in Estonia that came to Guyana. So we want to be able to start facilitating a discussion as to how our cabinet becomes paperless, how less paper is even used in the parliament. So all these are the foundations that we have been doing as the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. We see ourselves as the catalyst that's going to inform the ministries, tell them what they need to do, prepare the groundwork so we can move towards a digital government. In the area of ICT hubs, I think I've explained why an ICT hub is so important. And in fact, it gives anybody in any community of any age the possibility to have access to the internet free of charge. This government took the decision, specifically the President Granger, took the decision that our teachers needed to ensure that they had access to a computer. And so that's how come we gave out the 8,000 plus computers and laptops to the teachers. in addition to that, we have given laptops to every single teacher at the teacher training school. Why a laptop is important for a teacher is, first of all, the laptops come with the syllabuses on it. It comes with teaching material. It helps to make the teacher, it gives the teacher the resources he or she needs to be a better teacher. And of course, the internet connectivity makes it possible for them to do research, to connect, to prepare. So that has worked very well. We've also given a number of computers in 2016 to students that were successful at the grade 6 examination.
Okay.
And there are other agencies that the remaining laptops we're sharing out to. The Institute for the Blind, for example, asked for a few. The Carnegie School of Home Economics, for some reason, had been left off. So last week we were able to give them 15. So I think that is the thrust of some of the activities that we have been involved in within the ministry.
And Minister, to get to all those achievements, you would have lamented earlier that it wouldn't have been an easy task because you had to come in and you had to put mechanisms in place that should have already been there, like you said. But what has been some of your challenges so far for this year?
You know, I hate to say so, but for me, this is the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge I have faced is with the way we Guyanese look at situations. Sometimes I am the type of person, my motto is the glass is half full. It is not half empty. And so many people start off by saying, oh gosh, this ain't gonna work. You know, we have that terrible mantra, this is Guyana. And so it's taken a lot of time to say to people, yes, we can do it. We can actually transform. I'm showing you how we can do it. And in the ICT hubs that have been very successful, those have been successful because in the community, we've had 2 or 3 people, either coming a parent, a member of the community that's really interested and wants to contribute, or we've had a few teachers. Because remember, the ICT hub, we need a group,
Right.
a steering committee that will drive the hub. This is the committee that will open the doors at after school hours. A few representatives that are volunteers that will create a roster that will be there to man the hub. And we've had tremendous results, excellent results in some areas. And then in some communities, you could tell that the spirit or the feeling is, man, we can't bother with that. Nobody wants to volunteer. Nobody recognizes the impact it can have. So what we have been doing is that we're working with the folks that step forward, that say to us, Minister, guess what? You haven't come to my area, and we're ready to create a hub. So those are the places that we're going to, and I want to urge any community that needs a hub that can get a few people together to steer it, because it is a partnership.
Right.
The government can't do it alone. We don't have the funds to hire people to go and work in the hubs, but we will certainly commit to ensuring that we have the funds to get the computers that you will need, or the laptops, and of course provide the internet to the hub free. The other thing that I'm working with right now is that we're working very closely with the Ministry of Education. Just about 2 weeks ago, we had an excellent interaction with Digicel, because Digicel has some very good online learning platforms.
Okay.
And we're speaking with Digicel, and also we have similar platforms that have been done right here in Guyana by the Brain Street Group. And we're talking with both of those so that we can get access to their platforms at our hubs at a very moderate cost, or in some cases free of charge.
Okay.
These platforms means that if a young person was at a hub and is doing, let's say, CSEC math, they would have access to some of the past papers online. They would have close to 1,000 questions that on the platform, the questions that a student would want to ask. The questions are there with the answers. So it's almost like your own in-house tutorial, your own personal teacher and it gives you an opportunity to work through the material and the syllabus online. So I am saying that, you know, this is a way for us to bridge the digital divide. And for people that are not sure what I mean by a digital divide, for too long in Guyana, if you lived on the coast, if you had access to the internet, if you went to schools that were well equipped, had all the teachers, then you had a chance of getting a good, well-rounded education. If you happen to be in Anai and you wanted to do biology, there's no biology teacher there. And therefore, in a lot of our hinterland and remote communities, there is a digital divide because the facilities that the coast has been able to enjoy does not exist in so many of those areas. And so we want to bridge this divide by using technology. And that's why there are a range of areas that we are moving into. And we have been able, through the budget that we got last year, I should say this year in the Parliament, we have been able to provide internet access free to some of those hinterland communities by buying satellite time and setting up wireless connections with we've done it both with GT&T and also with Digicel, where they have cell sites. Because as you know, unfortunately we do not have a fiber optic cable. That project had a very unfortunate demise, and so we don't have enough connectivity going from the Georgetown, the city, going south into the Rupununi, the hinterland, and the remote areas. And so that's why we've partnered with the telecommunications companies, and in some areas we're providing mobile connectivity or via satellite, which is expensive. So long term, at some way, shape or form, we need to have another cable that comes in from Brazil. It's a great investment opportunity for anybody in the private sector, because I'm convinced that you have the whole northern side of the state of Roraima right on our doorstep. So any entrepreneur can start looking into providing service to Guyana and also the border of Brazil. So some of the areas that we've connected already, St. Ignatius School, and that was such a beautiful thing to see because the e-government unit went up there. We connected the computer lab, we connected the school. And when I went up there, one of the matrons came running up to me and she said, Minister, this is a residential school. And I thought, a residential school? What do you mean? And then suddenly it made me realize, yes, St. Ignatius High School draws students from all over the region. And therefore, the students stay at the school. They go home at holiday time. And what she was saying to me was that there was no internet access in the dorms, and also even in their lunchroom and in their little library. So it meant that if they wanted to do homework in the night and access the internet for research, they did not have. They only would have in the computer labs. So needless to say, I had to say to my team, we got to come back, and we have since put the internet access into those areas. I'm talking about increasing internet access, and of course the element and the importance of security goes hand in hand. So one of the things we were able to do just about 6 weeks ago is that through my participation at one of the conferences I went to, we spoke to the International Telecommunications Union, and they had 2 consultants that came down to Guyana, and they had a 3-day interaction. It took place at the North Georgetown Multilateral School, and we had we had teachers from all over. The Ministry of Education worked with us, and we pulled teachers from everywhere that came in, and also heads of departments, the headmistresses and headmasters, and they got an in-depth training on how to deal with cybersecurity, how to look out for some of the challenges that you will have with students using the internet. And unfortunately, as we know, we had our bout with pornography being put online. So, you know, the teachers, the head teachers, the Ministry of Education were able to get in-depth approaches, up-to-date approaches on how you deal with that. And then the e-government unit, as we provide internet access to these hubs and also to high schools, we're also putting in blocks to certain sites based on core words, you know.
Okay.
We want to make sure that we block pornographic sites, sites that deal with terrorism, that deal with race hate. So that's also an element of what we have done in terms of the access to the internet.
Very well.
How do I get an A?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And you know, you have that little part at the bottom where you have the teacher's remarks.
That's right.
So
that's
I
right.
should probably say Minister Kati has done exceptionally well over the last
Wonderful.
6
Thank you. Thank you.
Minister, just quickly before we close off, we're 4 months away from ending 2017,
Yes.
and I'm sure your work is definitely continuing. But what are some of your priorities for the remaining of 2017?
Well, we have more internet hubs that we want to connect. And we have two really exciting projects that we are hoping to finalize
Okay.
and to start implementing. The first project is the Rural Poor and Hinterland Communities Project, which we have applied for funds under the GRIF Fund, and I am pretty confident. We've been going through all the paperwork, we've done all the analysis, we've had the consultants prepare the necessary groundwork. And so that project is exciting because it has a series of different components. It first of all will provide more internet access to some of the communities in the hinterland. We have been able to connect, I think I might have mentioned, as far down south as Masakanari, and quite a few others. We're going to Mabaruma, we're going to more to Bartica, we've done some work in Linden. All along the coast we've done work. But there are many far-flung parts of the hinterland, the Rupununi, the interior, where we need special approaches to get there. And therefore the cost of providing internet access and the development of projects that would be income generating for those communities, and also the training component that would go into these communities and provide training so that they know how they can use this internet that they're getting to better themselves. We, just a couple of weeks ago, provided internet access to the STEM Guyana group.
Yes.
And of course, we also funded the participation of 2 of their members to go to that internet, to the conference, the robotics conference. And I am so encouraged and I was so excited. I was actually at a conference but watching it live online in the hotel room as they came back from the conference and they returned to Guyana. And I have to tell you, Gabby, I had to stop, I had to think and say, don't cry, Kathy, don't cry. Because here was a group of young Guyanese that literally got together 3 months before and had no knowledge, no idea, and could walk away with doing so well. And so the thing admits all the negative, and again, sometimes we talk about all that could go wrong, and we talk about all the bad, and we don't big up the good that's happening in communities. And so I use them as an example of the tremendous talent that Guyanese have. So once we put the training in place with that project, once we give them the access, and once we help them to understand the entrepreneurial possibilities, the using it for education, for e-learning, for e-medicine, then the sky is the limit. The other project that we're hoping to complete is a Smart Guyana project.
Yes.
And that we are looking to get funding from the Chinese for.
Okay.
And that project actually connects a series of different sectors. So it's working closely with public security to put more cameras on streets in Guyana, to develop an even larger operations center. So imagine We want to get to the stage where we will equip our police officers with little tablets that have mobile access on it, internet access, and it means that if a robbery takes place at a bank at X point, that data would be relayed instantly to police cars, to police officers on the beat, on a motorbike, on whatever it is. And so we think that that will be a quick way of starting to curb crime. There's supporting things that are necessary. We started looking at implementing digital license plates,
Okay.
so that again you can track in the event of crime and security issues, much better vehicles. And then there are a whole host of other components in terms of getting citizens to provide better information and response. So we've got that access. We're talking under that project of creating smart classrooms. And if I use the analogy of that girl who wants to do biology at the Beena Hill, then certainly we would be able to put into classrooms in a couple of key schools in the hinterland and around the country video conferencing facilities. It means that they would have a computer screen, they would have the internet access, and they would have audio so that they could speak and communicate with the teacher, regardless of whether the teacher is at the University of Guyana, Bishop's High School, Vreden Hoop, wherever. So that Smart Guyana project on the education component will bring more of the equipment into the schools. And the same thing goes in the area of health,
Okay.
for putting equipment in at the health centers and internet access at all our major health centers and also our regional hospitals. So it's a pretty comprehensive project, and I think by the end of the year we would have finalized those and those projects would have started. And I didn't mention our hackathon, but we are having another hackathon in a couple of weeks' time. We have just sponsored a code sprint with the DevX group, and last year we had 7 groups. This year on the code sprint there are 14 groups that have come forward that are participating, and this time we actually have an all-girl group, so I'm so excited that the Girls in ICT Thrust is also working. And we have, as I mentioned, another hackathon, and by October we will be unveiling an ICT week.
Yes.
And there's so many exciting things. We're going to be connecting with the public sector, the private sector, and citizens in general, and it's going to be an awesome occasion.
Minister, in closing, I know that you would have had a lot of favorite moments.
Yes.
But for 2017, if you were to choose 2, what would they be?
I think my favorite moment would have been visiting the hub at Skeldon Line Path, when I went there to open the hub and to cut the ribbon, and there were close to about 32 young kids. I mean, like really young. They were all around me. And I felt so excited. And of course, after we cut the ribbon, they all ran in and they were looking at these laptops. And I was happy that, you know, we've got some training in there and those young kids would be able to benefit. And I mentioned also about, the hub in Crawford Creek. So when you see how people are benefiting, the other special moment actually came about 2 weeks ago when Dr. Suresh Narayan, I saw Suresh and he said to me, I gotta tell you a story. I was in Paramakatoy and I saw a whole group of people standing at 4 in the afternoon in an area. And I said, what happened? And they're having a meeting there, what's going on? And the person said to him, internet access. The minister put free internet access, and so members of the community were there using the free internet access. And for me, that is awesome. They get to call their family and friends, and with the messages that we're going to send to them, I know they will use it also for education, for health, and for entrepreneurial activities.
Well, Minister Hughes, thank you very much for joining us on this program, and we continue to wish you much success. You're certainly having fun while serving the people of Guyana, so it's a very well balanced work for.
Exhausting. Can't go to the gym, can't walk on the seawall as much as I need to. But whilst Parliament is closed, I'm hoping that we get some time to look at that.
Well, Minister Hughes, thank you very much once again for joining us on this program. And to you, our viewers, thank you very much for joining us. I am Gabriella Patram. Goodbye.